Good morning. My name is Susan Reardon, and I call the meeting of Wednesday, March 24th to order. The first item on our agenda is preliminary matters, and I have not received any requests for continuances, withdrawals, postponements, or addition of ex-agenda items. So we will hear the items in the order that they appeared on the agenda. Under announcements and appeals, I do have an announcement regarding an appeal that was filed on a project at 2 South Quarantina Street. It was a coastal development permit for the Marburg facility, and it was appealed, and a Planning Commission appeal hearing date has been set, and that is for May 13th of this year, 2021. So when I announced the original appeal, I said I would announce when the appeal hearing date was set, and that's the date. In regards to additional announcements, there are 2 projects listed on the agenda. The first one is a request for a coastal development permit for a project located at 229 San Clemente, and it's a request for a new detached 1-story accessory dwelling unit. And the second project is another request for a coastal development permit for a detached accessory dwelling unit at 506 Yankee Farm Road. In regards to the first project, the site plan does include both a demo and rebuild of the existing residence, as well as a new detached accessory dwelling unit. And just want to make it clear that this application and request before me for approval is only for the accessory dwelling unit part. Being that it is a detached accessory dwelling unit, it does require a coastal development permit. And I have read all this documentation submitted by staff as well as the applicant, and I received no public comment on this this project. And I agree with staff's analysis that the project is consistent with the policies in the city's local coastal land use plan, and can approve that project. I would like to note that the state law regarding accessory dwelling units requires these types of applications to be reviewed either ministerial or if it needs a coastal development permit without a public hearing. So I will not take public comment on this item or the Yankee Farm item. And so that coastal development permit is approved, and being it's in the non-appeal jurisdiction of the coastal zone, my action is final. In regards to the 506 Yankee Farm Road, again, this project does the site plan submitted for my review includes both the existing single-family residence as well as the detached accessory dwelling unit. And so my action is only again on the accessory dwelling unit. And I would like to note that when I went and did the site visit, I noticed that the site, all the structures have been removed from the site, which isn't a problem. The house went through the design review process and it received approval. But I would put a condition on this project that the scope of work just reflect the fact that now the garage has been removed. I understand there are portions of the existing garage, such as the foundation, that will be used for the new ADU, but it should be clear on the plans that it's no longer a conversion of the existing garage, but it's actually was the demolition and reconstruction of an ADU in its place. So again, I reviewed all the documentation that was submitted to me, and I received no public comment on it. And I agree with staff's analysis that this project is consistent with our local coastal land use plan and our coastal program, and can make the findings in the staff report and approve the project. Again, this application is in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone, so my action is not as final of the city. I also want to note that both of these project approvals are subject to the conditions of approval that were contained in the written staff report. And then, as I said with Yankee Farm, as I further amended them today. So I have no other announcements, and we've had no recent appeals, other recent appeals. So I'll move on to the next item on the preliminary matters, which is comments from members of the public pertaining to items not on this agenda. If there's anyone who would like to address the staff hearing officer on items not listed on our agenda, how you would do that is you would click the little raise your hand icon, which is the red arrow on the screen's pointing to, and you just click it once and it will turn red. And that will indicate that you wish to provide comments. And if I see the raised hand, I will call on you and unmute you, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. So if you would like to address the staff hearing officer on items not on the agenda, you may raise your hand now, and I'll you can see I see no one raising their hand. So I will close the public comment portion of the agenda, and we'll move on to the first item, which is a project located at 1215 Calle Cerritos. Hi, good morning. And then the applicant, we will promote you to a panelist. I see that Ginger Anderson is in attendance. And I see that that's the applicant, and I don't the applicant and the owner. Okay, so anytime you're ready, Mr. Dulles.
Yeah, good morning, Ms. Rudin. I'm Robert Dostalek, Associate Planner with the Community Development Department. And the project before you today is for a front setback modification to allow new floor area in the front setback and an interior setback modification to allow as-built doors to encroach into the interior setback. And Mr. Russell, if you'd be able to go to the site plan, which is sheet 1, it'd be great. And the project site is located at 1215 Calle Cerrito, and that's in the west side neighborhood of the city. So a little bit of background. This project was originally approved by the staff hearing officer in 2017 under PLN 2016-00552. However, the approval expired last year in 2020 prior to the submission of building permits to finalize the as-built improvements. So therefore, this planning application would serve to, in essence, reinstate, so to speak, the previous approval. So I'll try to keep the presentation fairly abbreviated. And the project involves the permitting of an as-built 180 square foot roof deck enclosure to create a sunroom, an as-built alteration to the staircase from the street level to the main entry, an as-built conversion of a window into a sliding glass door in the rear elevation, and the proposed conversion of that as-built sliding glass door into French doors. And just general zoning and site information, the project site is zoned RS1A under Title 30 of the Municipal Code. The general plan designation is low density residential with a maximum of 1 dwelling unit per acre. And the properties surrounding the project site are zoned for and developed with residential improvements. And general zoning consistency, the project would adhere to applicable building height, open yard, and parking standards. And for the front setback modification, staff is supportive of the proposed front setback modification. The parcel is substantially and disproportionately constrained by large setbacks due to the small lot size and the rezoning of the property to RS1, which has the much greater setbacks. And this is further compounded by an average slope on the property of 64%. And Mr. Russell, if you could go to sheet 5, which is the floor plan, please. And so additionally, the porch enclosure was built in line with the walls of the garage beneath, as you can see from the original building footprint. So the front setback nonconformity is not increased. Moreover, the front setback and deck enclosure design and massing are similar to and comparable with the 2 existing residences to the southwest at 1221, 1227 Calle Cerrito, which are on the same side of the street. And lastly, at approximately 1,073 square feet, the residence is fairly modest in size, and the small porch enclosure would enhance the livability of the residence. And Mr. Russell, if you could quickly, there's an aerial view of Calle Cerrito, if you're able to pull that up. Yes, and this gives a good, quick visual representation of the other 2 residences on the same side of the street of Calle Cerrito. And you can see the setback theme of the two that are below. There we go. And that's good. Thank you. And if you could scroll back to actually the elevations sheet, which is sheet 6, next sheet after there. And so the interior setback modification, the house was constructed with a single door on the rear facade along with 2 windows on either side. And the project proposes to convert the existing as-built sliding glass door closest to the western interior property line to French doors. And you can see the sliding glass door in the lower image, and that's proposed to be changed to French doors. And staff is supportive of this request because the French doors would face and open to the rear of the property and would not result in a substantial visual impact from neighboring parcels or from public view areas. The doorway would also improve the practical functionality and openness of the floor plan by providing a second ingress and egress to the deck and outdoor space behind the residence. And additionally, the neighboring parcel house to the west is located approximately 20 feet away with a wooden fence in between. And therefore the new French doors would have a negligible visual impact to neighboring parcels. And for the design review aspect of the project was conceptually reviewed by SFDB, Single Family Design Board, in January of 2017. And the project received positive comments. And following the original approval in 2017 by the staff hearing officer, the project returned for project design approval and final approval by the SFDB in November of 2018. And for environmental review for the project, the scope of the entire project can be found categorically exempt from further environmental review under sections 15303 and 15305 of the California Environmental Quality Act. And with the ability to make the findings for both requested modifications, staff recommends the staff hearing officer approve the request. And that concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for questions. Thanks.
Great, thank you. I have no questions at this time. I see the applicants here. Would the applicant like to unmute yourself and state your name for the record and provide any other public comments, any other comments regarding the project that you'd like? I can't, you're muted, or I can't hear you. There we go.
Good morning. I'm Ginger. I'm Ginger Anderson. I'm the owner and applicant, and I have nothing to add. We had 2 kids in the last since you last saw this, and apologies for the delay in getting through. I do have a set of plans sitting here ready to go back into. I think it's the 2nd or 3rd round of building plan check now. We were just waiting for this to be resolved, so it didn't come back as a comment. So we actually have the money to do this now too, which is nice. So thanks for your time.
Okay, great. Thank you. I do have a question for you. On the site plan here that's in front of us, it shows 2 rain barrels on the open wooden deck, and that I think that is in the area that the slider door is not shown on this particular plan, but how is that going to work with the doors right there?
Oh, they're not, those are an error. There's no rain barrels there. We had a garbage can converted that was picking up some drainage from the roof drain, but it's not in the ground or anything. I am sorry, I didn't notice those were there. We don't have rain barrels.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. That I think that's my only question. Yeah, that's my only question right now. So I'd like to open the public comment. If you would like to address the staff hearing officer on this item, you may do so by clicking the raise your hand icon, which is shown on this slide. It's the green arrow on the hand icon, and you only need to click it once. And when you do, it will turn red. And if I see the raise the hand icon go on, I will call on you, and you will have 2 minutes to speak. And so you raise your hand. I see no one raising their hand. Ms. Gu, have we received any public comments since this item, this morning?
No, Chair Reardon, no written correspondence was received. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will close the public comment portion, and it's back to me if staff would like to turn on your webcam so I can talk to you too. Great, thank you. Oh, and you're gone. And you're there. Okay, so I did go out to the site, and I do remember it from 2017. And I find, based on the information that was provided, I find it interesting that, you know, all three houses in a row, they all enclose the same deck, and find it interesting that it wasn't part of the original like field changes. Sometimes that happens. The information I remember reading that was submitted to me indicates it happens a little bit after construction. But in terms of the findings I need to make with the front setback modification, the enclosure of that porch area, it doesn't significantly impact the streetscape or the street frontage. It is consistent with the other houses along this side of the street. You know, it is appropriate and consistent with the zoning ordinance. In regards to the requested interior setback modification, it too is also an appropriate improvement. With interior setbacks, I do have concerns regarding the potential conflict between adjacent neighbors due to changing a window to a door, and the more activity in that area, which setbacks aren't meant to be not used. They are used, I recognize that. But then also the required lighting for the doors. However, in this instance, technically it's in the interior setback, but it's facing the backyard. And I don't feel it has the potential for causing any significant adverse impacts in terms of noise or privacy to the neighbors. And it too is a appropriate improvement and consistent with the zoning ordinance. In regards to conditions of approval, staff is not proposing any conditions of approval, and I don't need to add any conditions of approval to enable myself to be able to make the required findings. So therefore, I'll approve your project as submitted. And just with the note that the site plan should be cleaned up regarding those rain barrels. And also, I'm sure you're aware that your design review approval, expires in November. So you want to make sure that you move through the plan check process and get your building permit issued prior to November. And then if not, just be aware of that date and ask for a time extension prior to its expiration so you don't have to go through that process again. That's just a side note. So with that, I approved your project, and my action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. And they also have oversight authority of all my actions. And if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they would call it up during that same 10-day appeal period. And if either of those situations would occur, staff would contact you. Okay?
Thank you.
Sure. So we'll move on to the next item, which is 807 East Almar Avenue. There's this moment, Mr. Woman. If you would like to, anytime you're ready.
Okay. Morning, Ms. Reardon. My name is Tony Bauman. I'm an associate planner in the Community Development Department. This project consists of a lot line adjustment between 807 East Almar Avenue, which is indicated as parcel A, and 802 East Calle Laureles, which is parcel B.
Just a second. Mr. Russell, would you please go to the plans? Thank you. Sorry for interrupting you, Tony.
Oh, thank you. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted you to show. So, yep, zoom in on the plan. Very good. So the existing lot configuration is parcel A, which is 6.17 acres. Where Mr. Russell's pointing, it's that parcel to the east side. It's developed with a dwelling, driveway, and an orchard, and the larger parcel B is 29.35 acres. It's currently vacant land, although there's been a project in review by the Single Family Design Board to build a house on that large parcel B. Following the lot, well, let's see, while we're looking at this, that area highlighted in green on the plan shows where the lot line would be adjusted. So parcel A on the westerly lot line is a direct due south straight property line. And that line, a part of that line would be moved westward to encompass the area shown in green. So that area in green would be added to parcel A and taken from parcel B. And it's moved westward following the existing driveway that goes to the house on parcel A. And the area in green is developed with an orchard that was planted by the owner of parcel A, and it's been taken care of by the parcel A property for many years. So that's the reason for the lot line adjustment, just logically to make the real lot line reflect how the property's been used for many years. The existing driveway would remain on parcel B in its easement as it currently exists. So the discretionary application is a lot line adjustment, and the findings to approve a lot line adjustment are that the project would conform to the city's zoning and building ordinances and the policies of the general plan. So in terms of zoning ordinance consistency, the resulting lots would comply with the minimum 3-acre lot standard for the RS1A zone. Because the slopes are greater than 30%, the minimum lot size, which would normally be 1 acre, is multiplied by 3 as a slope factor. So minimum lot size for a steeply sloped lot in this zone would be 3 acres. Both lots exist larger than 3 acres and would remain compliant with the minimum standard for that. Both lots are existing, non-conforming to having any public street frontage. They're not in proximity to any public streets. Instead, take access from a private street. As you go up East Alomar Avenue above Foothill Road, a couple of blocks above Foothill Road, north of Foothill, it becomes a private street, still called East Alomar Avenue. But anyway, the lots don't have any frontage on a public street, and the lot line adjustment would not affect that. We conferred with the city attorney's office to be sure we didn't need a public street frontage modification, and they determined that it's an existing non-conforming situation that wouldn't be reduced or exacerbated by this proposal. So no modification required for that. The project doesn't involve any physical work or anything involving building permits, so building code consistency is not really applicable. In terms of general plan consistency, the project is consistent with the policies of the general plan. It is low density residential use, that wouldn't change. The project doesn't propose, and the lot line adjustment wouldn't facilitate any changes of use of existing buildings or result in additional development potential on the lots. Environmental review, the environmental analyst determined that the minor lot line adjustment is exempt from further environmental review. It's categorically exempt per CEQA section 15305 for minor alteration in land use limitations. So with all that, staff can recommend that the staff hearing officer make the findings that the proposed lot line adjustment is appropriate for the existing lots and for the area, and that the parcels resulting will conform to the general plan, building and zoning ordinances. And we've drafted conditions of approval, but they're just standard conditions, nothing project specific in our draft conditions of approval. Says, oh, Mr. Wiley contacted me this morning to mention there's an error in the staff report in the table where it lists the property owner. It's listed as North Star Management LLC, and that's the LLC that has the account from which the application fees were paid. And the full ownership, the trust and the trustees are listed in Mr. Uritz's letter to the staff hearing officer. So it's the same people involved. I just made an error when I noted the property owner, when I listed that as that LLC that paid the application fees. So that concludes my presentation.
Great, thank you. So I see the applicant, Mr. Ertz, is in attendance, and you're now a panelist. Would you, do you have any additional comments you'd like to provide? You can click on your webcam.
Thank you, Chair Reardon, and thank you, Mr. Baumann, for your presentation. I think Mr. Bauman's presentation sums it up pretty well. My clients have owned this property for over 30 years. They planted the avocado trees on the side of a hill about between 30 and 40 years ago, and they wish to keep those trees. The land that they will, and my clients are the North family that owns the 807 East Alomar Street, and the neighboring lot 802 East Calle Laurales used to be owned by a family member. They had an arrangement with regard to the maintenance of the avocado trees and the ownership of them. And since that property has sold, my clients have now approached the other owner and have sought to obtain the lot line adjustment in order to officially own that property, to make sure that they're able to maintain the trees and also they prevent any fire hazard to themselves. So other than that, we appreciate your time and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, great, thank you. I don't have any questions at this time. So I'll move on to the public hearing portion. If there's anybody in attendance who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 807 East Alomar Avenue, you may do so by clicking on the raise your hand icon, which as illustrated on the slide on the TV or the screen. And when you do, just click it once and it will turn red. And if I see your hand raised, I will call on you and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. So I'll give the attendees a minute to raise the hand if they want. And Ms. Gu, was there any public comments submitted this morning?
No, Chair Reardon, there were no written correspondence received.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Great, thank you. And seeing no one raising their hands, I will close the public comment portion of this hearing. Mr. Baumann, if you'd like to turn back on your webcam. I would like to note, I did visit the site and I appreciate the property owner was there, met me, and they walked me kind of down along the road and showed where the adjusted line would be. And I agree with staff's analysis in the staff report that it is an appropriate adjustment of the parcel, and the boundary that was chosen makes sense. It follows the existing road. It doesn't encompass the road, it's just on the inside of the road, but that's fine. There's an existing easement that won't be affected in terms of access to the existing house on parcel A. And also both parcels will remain, will continue to meet the minimum lot size required by the zoning ordinance, and that's also as identified in the general plan. And the adjusted boundary does not change the development potential of parcel A. Sometimes in terms of lot line adjustments, that's one of the things we look at, and whether it makes the lot more buildable, which is not in itself a concern. It's just what is the different changes, and we need to analyze that. So there's no change in terms of the development portion. The slope of the parcel, or the slope of the adjusted area, is such that it wouldn't change the density, in that it's already over 30%. So with that, I agree with staff recommendations and can make the findings. I would like to ask the applicant that the written staff report did contain proposed conditions of approval, and you've reviewed them and you agree with them and you don't have questions on them.
That's correct, Chair Reardon. Thank you.
Okay, great, sure. So with that, I'll make the findings as outlined in the staff report and approve the lot line adjustment subject to those conditions of approval. And my action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. And they also have oversight authority of all my actions. And if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day appeal period. And if either of those instances were to occur, staff would contact you, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, great. And that was the last item on the agenda, so I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.